Hey everybody. It's Thursday, June 13th, 2013. This Non-Religious Life. I'm your host Ken. With me up in the Bay Area of California, we have Bob
How's it going?
and Jason.
Hello.
And you're always so enthusiastic when you say hello. Bob's just like,
Let's try it
hey.
again. Let's try it again. All right.
Um,
Welcome to the
Hi,
show.
thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching tonight. We have a wonderful
Today,
show for you.
on This
and
Non-Religious
it's gonna
Life.
be really awesome. I'm glad you're here watching our show or listening to it.
Do you
awful.
I know it's off topic, but the probably to this day the funniest skits in like the last 10 years on Saturday Night Live was with Anna Gasteyer and Molly Shannon when they were on NPR radio, The Delicious Dish.
Oh,
And they
yeah.
had
The delicious dish.
Alec Baldwin was Mike Schweddy with the sweaty balls. That was just that. I think that was comedy gold.
That's good.
And so every time I talk into a
those ones are good.
microphone, I always think of them. Hi, the delicious dish. All right. Anyway, that's my standard of poor microphone performance.
they lean into the microphone too, like when they're talking.
Good times.
That's good.
Good times. Good times.
So yeah, we have some fun stuff to talk about. I thought I would kick it off with some recent things that have been said concerning the church and tax exemption, because it's kind of a weird topic, and I've seen a lot of my fellow atheists comment on the subject, and it's weird because I tend to be on the opposite end of the spectrum from a lot of them with my feelings towards it. But anyway, recently Mike Huckabee came
political process, and as such, you have a right to be politically active.
Sure, but again, remember, like it's not saying that the pastor can't be politically active. It's saying that the church as an organization can't be politically active. So then you start getting into the, the personhood of corporations, and paying taxes allows the corporation to be politically active. And that's a problem we have with regular old corporations.
No, I agree, and I will admit that the system is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm
sorry. I'll believe that corporations are people when Texas executes one.
Right, yeah. No, isn't that? Yeah, I know. And maybe that's what would happen. I don't know. Maybe it would be such that mega churches become like corporations, and that they have all the rights of an individual and none of the responsibility.
Okay, I think you're just trying to create a world where RoboCop will exist, because that's what you're doing.
Maybe
it's true.
Maybe I
yearn for the day of RoboCop.
And that's what all this Detroit talk about on your side, Ken.
Yeah. No, I yearn for the day of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I don't know, man. Just what Huckabee had to say was, it just sort of rings a bell in me, because then I see websites like the Pulpit Freedom Sunday, which, like I said, was just a couple days ago, and they're flagrantly violating the law. They are flagrantly standing up in front of the church crowd and getting away with it.
Yeah,
and so they're getting their cake and they're eating it too.
They can get away with it. I think that's the huge problem, is that they can just flagrantly abuse this law and disregard it. Like, working for a nonprofit during an election year, I simply don't talk politics. I don't at all. Period. I have to leave it out and say, when I post on Facebook, I'm like, this obviously is my own opinion, does not represent the 501c3 nonprofit that I work for.
Well, that's fair. You get to do it because Ken Monville, you pay taxes. I mean,
exactly.
You pay taxes, you get to vote.
I live in California, for fuck's sake. But I think it's funny because, like, a lot of the rhetoric that Huckabee's using here, he's saying, "Oh, I've never donated to the church for the tax deduction." It's like, obviously, like, how much money are you donating to the church? Like, a general deduction is more than anyone ever regularly donates to a nonprofit group. Like, no one's donating for the deduction. That's just something that you can get if you donate a lot of money.
Well, yeah. I mean, there is and that's one of the advantages of being the 501c is that contributions made to your organization are tax deductible. That's and not only that's a win-win for the organization, the 501c itself. It gets the money, it doesn't have to pay taxes on it, and the person that gave you that money doesn't have to pay taxes on that money either. That's kind of how it's supposed to work in that idolized system.
Because a 501c3 is supposed to provide some sort of service that the government isn't.
Well, in the end of the day, it's supposed to promote the public good.
Yeah, it promotes the public good in a way that the government isn't already doing. The churches obviously are promoting something that the government shouldn't. Whether you agree with it or not, I mean, they're promoting religion, which is, in their mind, some sort of moral education for individuals that the government is staying out of, or should be staying out of. So they get the 501c3 nonprofit status. But I mean, I've been donating to charities for years. I'm been member of Farm Sanctuary, the ACLU. I've donated to the Freedom from Religion Foundation once or twice, sometimes anonymous donations to groups, Southern Poverty Law Center, a lot of nonprofits that I obviously support. I don't do it for the tax exemption because
you don't.
Yeah, I don't have that much money to worry
you have
about.
To donate before it's worth taking it and counting it as your your deductions on your taxes.
No, you're right. And I'm in that boat as well. That none of us here make that much money that we have to sit down at the end of the year and go, oh man, we got to get rid of some of this money because we're going to pay too much taxes on it.
Yeah, exactly.
That doesn't happen to me. I've never looked around and went, man, what am I going to do with all this cash?
With all this cash,
it's yet to happen.
No, I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for it to happen.
Some people are suffering that way, Ken. Some people are suffering.
Yeah.
And I'm here to
We're all
help.
suffering our own way, right?
We are here to help.
Here's my PSA. If you are listening to this show and you have all that money, I will hold
Especially
on
in
to it.
Bitcoin format.
Yes,
Yeah.
send it. This is my religious moment. Put your hands on the screen.
That's right, yeah. Who's that guy you like so much that we used to like, I'm not going any further until we raise this much money.
Oh, that's Dr. Gene Scott.
Yeah. and his stripper wife.
And his cigar.
That was a good talk about that guy.
Oh yeah, because he had his pony girls, right?
Oh, that was like how deep did the rabbit hole go?
It went deep.
That was fun. Yeah. So, yeah, do I want that guy? Well, I don't know. I don't know. Man.
Wait. Put me to the test. Send me the money.
Yeah. Let's just see. Let's play it out. Let's see how it goes.
Let me see how far I'll put it in my pocket.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Well, I mean, what will we have to do to get 501c3 status?
For zombie popcorn?
Yeah.
Why would we want to?
I don't know, because we
don't make money already.
We can promote ourselves as an
right.
educational program. But then if we do that, then we can raise money. I don't know. It's just,
And believe me,
I'm
it
just
doesn't
kicking
work
around
that way.
ideas, man.
It doesn't work that way. That's
wait.
why nonprofit salaries are notoriously not where people make their money.
I just want to say, if we're going to start raising money for the show, it's hard enough to get you guys here at 8 o'clock on Thursday.
I'm on time.
I was here on time.
I'm here.
It
I was on
looked like
time,
you were
man.
off
I even
time.
stopped to buy you guys pie. Fuck you.
Where's this pie?
They were out.
No.
They didn't have any.
Well, that is nothing for
beat
me,
me to it.
considering I'm like 6 hours south of you.
You'll just have to hear Jason tell you about how delicious the pie would have been had I brought some.
Guys are assholes.
Because I brought pie before.
But yeah, there is no pie.
I need some pie now.
But I did get this.
I can't really see what you're showing me.
It's a little bamboo drawing pad.
It's a graphic pad. Yay!
Oh, cool. Oh, yeah. Because the graphics you made, those are fantastic.
Yeah, I look like
You look like what?
that little cartoon you made, dude. That's weird. But and actually, it's on the Facebook page. Ken, you look great. I look like shit, like always. Jason
I thought
doesn't
yours
look
looked the best.
No, I thought yours looked good. I thought he did a good job with you. And like I said, I always look like shit. I hate the way I look.
Bob, I combed your hair in the
Yeah.
drawing.
And but Jason doesn't look anything like him. He doesn't.
You know how weird? You think it's weird drawing other people? Try drawing yourself. It's
Try
just
drawing
awkward.
yourself.
Self-portrait.
It's just awkward. So. Yeah. Back to the show.
Back to the show. So we're gonna talk about some other things now, but I wanted to tell you something. I was walking through my neighborhood. So I moved recently.
These are the people in the neighborhood.
So I'm living up in almost in Glendale. No, I'm not. I'm still in Los Angeles, but
I have
I'm
no idea where that
almost
is.
out of it.
This
I was
is nice.
walking around, and a few blocks away there was this building, and there was a sign on it that said Gnostic Seminary.
Ooh. Did you go in?
I'm so intrigued. No, I didn't, because I was going home. Like I was running an errand and I had to go home. And I had actually been walking around a lot lately, which leads to another story that we'll talk about in a minute as well. But I was fascinated. I was like, what is this Gnostic Seminary? I'm going to be having a field trip there soon, and I'll report back to you on what I find.
What happens at the Gnostic Seminary stays at the Gnostic Seminary.
Yeah, right? I want to know what this is all about. because I mean Gnosticism. It can't be classical Gnosticism. It's been dead for.
I bet you there's still little
years,
pockets
years.
of it going around. I had a history teacher that was a Zoroastrian. I thought that
Yeah, but
was something.
Zoroastrian isn't a dead religion.
It might as well be.
You know, it's not like neo-paganism.
Yeah.
Is this neo-Gnosticism?
I don't know.
It sounds way too much like neo-Nazism.
I don't know.
As I said that, I was like, that just sounds
Well,
awful.
you could go in, and then you too will know.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely. It's a seminary, though. It's weird.
You know what? You know what kills me about those, like reading about those old Gnostic cults, like it was like a whole thought system and belief around like the secret knowledge. You know, like Gnosticism was like the secret knowledge.
Gnosis. It means to
Right, it means
know
to know.
in Greek. Yeah.
And the Gnostics had the secret knowledge, and it's not like the secret knowledge. And like in most of the books that I've read about it, the secret knowledge you could sum it up in like 5 words or 5 sentences. You know, like 100 words or less. Here's our secret knowledge. Poof, go, and then that's
Yeah.
it. Like and it's just like people, this whole school of thought around this one little thing.
Their theologies were usually really complicated, though. Like about the demiurge and the true God and just all these weird concepts.
Did you read Ehrman's book, the Gospel of Judas?
No, I didn't.
It was good. It was a Gnostic text. And,
It's about a yeah.
And that group of Gnostics, it's just, like it was one of those things. Like I kept waiting for. I was like, reading the book, and I was like, oh man, it's just, like you could probably fill up volumes and volumes about like what the Gnostics pretended to know or thought they knew. And Bart Ehrman, he sums it up in like a paragraph.
Yeah, well, yeah. The Gnostics weren't even a single group. You're talking about wide range of groups. And I mean, there are Gnostic texts that made it into the canon. The Pauline writings themselves seem to be very heavily influenced by sort of quasi-Gnostic beliefs.
Yeah, I don't know. It's something funny I found, when reading about Gnosticism.
Yeah. John has some really weirdly, like, quasi-Gnostic, all the Johannine writings, but John in particular, really weirdly Gnostic influences. But
do you facepalm every time you hear somebody say gnosis?
Gnosis, yes.
It's like a GNU. Oh, man.
Oh, no. Don't drop the GNU.
Well, that's cool. The Gnostic seminar. Let me know how it goes.
Yeah. It's interesting because, like, almost a little bit further in the opposite direction from my house, I have the University of Philosophical Research, which I want to go investigate as well.
Yeah, all right.
That was less exciting. But no, okay. This is when we were coming back from this. This is why I didn't stop, because my legs were really tired. I remember now why I didn't stop. Last weekend, Rochelle and I walked up to Forest Lawn Cemetery because
You got like
there's
devil
a museum
worshippers.
there. No, there's an art museum. And there was this whole thing with like Legos. It was a bunch of Lego sculptures. It was really kind of interesting, but it was very small considering the amount of like distance we had to walk for it. So we got to Forest Lawn, and huge gates, and like there's a gatehouse and everything. It's a big private cemetery. Like Michael Jackson's buried there apparently. And we're like, where's the museum? And they point up the hill, and they're like, it's up there, like, I don't know, like a mile. You got to walk the paths to get up there. And I was like, you fucking kidding me? Like, God damn, it's like almost a mile here from my house. Like, now I have to walk all the way up. So we walked all the way up, and it's a big church-looking building, a little building off to the side. So we go inside, and we're looking at all Lego stuff, and then we're like, shit, we need water. And they send us to the back where there's, vending machines, but they were out of water. So we tell the lady, and she takes us into this like chapel-y part. And
They got
there's
holy water.
this place was built around this painting of the crucifixion. And it's
Crucifixion.
it's like 47 feet tall
That sounds awful.
and like 190 feet wide. It's insane. It's huge. And she's like, "Oh, would you guys like to stay for the presentation?" And I was like, "Fuck yes,
Yeah,
I need
sure.
to see what this shit's about." Like, are you kidding? Absolutely. So we got some water from the water fountain there, and we sat down and we just kind of waited. It was like 15 minutes until they started bringing people in, and it's not even a person. It's a bunch of TVs that play this like this video like that talks about the painting. Now it was made in Poland. It took like 37 years to make. It traveled the world. It came to the US, but they didn't pay the duties on it, so the US confiscated it and like stuck it in a basement somewhere, where the guy who founded Forest Lawn Cemetery like found it and like built the building around it because there was nothing big enough to house it. And just listening to the like the harmonization of the gospel story, because they explain the whole like crucifixion story.
That's my favorite.
And it's my favorite because it's someone trying to explain from beginning to end the crucifixion and the resurrection. And it's like, I mean, you're either going to leave parts out or you're going to try and fit them all in. So like the narrator has Jesus say 4 different things while being crucified.
Yeah, that I do love. I do love when you know the Bible textual guys get into the harmonizations, and I'm just like, and you know, and what's funny about it too is I hear that and I'm like, yeah, that's the story I heard, you know, but I'm like, no, wait, that's not what really happened. It's, you know, you piece it together from 4 different books and leave stuff
you're either
out
gonna
and
leave
include
out
things.
this detail, or you're gonna try and smash them all together to make one cohesive.
Yeah, I know,
story.
I love harmonization.
but-
It's great.
The one thing that Ken left out of his story is that Rochelle did not stay with him that entire time while he watched this. I'm sure
She did.
Did she? No, she did.
She did.
She suffers.
Actually, really funny because Rochelle and I were sitting there. She was like, "I don't know any of this." She read the Bible once when she was a little girl.
It's a heathen.
And she read something, and it was something about how women are inferior to men or something like that.
Oh.
There was she doesn't remember where she read it or exactly what the passage was, but she was
Minor
like,
detail.
"This is contrary to every single thing my parents have taught me." Put the book down, never picked it up again.
Her parents.
You know, so she was like, you know, essentially asked me like who Jesus is. And I kind of explained like the whole kind of idea around it without getting too technical. And then like, you know, Mary comes up and she's like, "Wait, is that the same Mary that you have tattooed on you with a goat head?" And I was like, "Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
same
yeah,
one.
yeah, that's Mary." You know, and Mary Magdalene. And, you know, it's funny she picked up on this because they said, you know, Mary Magdalene and had a very special relationship with Jesus. And she's like, "Were they boning?" Because that's what I get. And I was like,
According to
according to some
Martin
texts,
Scorsese,
yeah.
yes.
Could be. But it was a really interesting thing because you have a bunch of other religious people in the room kind of like being like, "Oh," just in awe of the spectacle of this thing. And I can appreciate religious art. I think a lot of religious art is very, very captivating. It's very emotional, especially something like the crucifixion, which it wasn't a gory crucifixion. It was like the few moments before Jesus gets like torn to shit with, you know, the like cat o' nine tails and all the nasty bits and bobs that the Romans use, and before he's nailed to a cross, he's just kind of standing there on Golgotha. There's the crowds, and it's interesting. It's an emotional piece for sure. I understand why it resonates with people.
I could never get passionate about a depiction of torture.
Yeah.
Then you haven't looked at the right torture.
Yeah, that's just me.
Yeah.
Call me crazy.
I mean, yeah.
So,
it's a nasty story.
Did you see? I learned something today. Did you see the article that Matt posted about the it was on the Pathos website that he likes so much, which is a good site. I like reading it.
Yeah.
And it was the review.
Even some atheists who are on there. The one that's against Ken Ham, essentially.
No. This was it was a review of there's a book called The Historical Jesus 5 Views, and Robert M. Price wrote a chapter in it
about the Christ myth.
Right, and I always like talking about these biblical criticism, because I always learn some new term or learn some new way of thinking, and I guess I haven't read the book, but in the review article, they're taking Price to task for his use of the criterion of dissimilarity. And I didn't know what that was. Whoops. I didn't know what that was, and so I had to look it up. And the criterion of dissimilarity is this criteria that is used to determine if Jesus actually said something or not. And if he says something that is like what came before or like what was being said then he probably didn't say it. And as I understand, right? That would make sense, right? Because if he was supposed to be a church leader or a revolutionary, then he should have revolutionary thoughts and ideas. Only he doesn't. He says exactly what everybody expects him to say.
Yeah, no, it's true. You have things that Jesus says in the Bible which aren't revolutionary thoughts. They wouldn't have been revolutionary thoughts at the time, and they certainly weren't revolutionary thoughts afterward. There are things that he says that actually get repeated in the Talmud.
Right. So the thing is, like, he's not really saying anything that is strange or foreign at the time.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely not.
Wait, define this deeper, because the way I'm taking it to my head, and I've read a lot about revolutionaries, is that revolutionaries don't say things revolutionary. They say what is happening at the time to invoke change, and it's not anything that's profound or great. It's just what people need to hear to be motivated to move forward, to something that's empowers people enough to get off of their daily routine to either fight back or to speak up, whatever the action may be. So you're saying that when you're saying he's not saying anything revolutionary, you're saying that he's not saying, look, this is what's at hand, this is what's going on. I mean, define what you mean that he's not saying.
What we're saying is Jesus' ideas, his sort of social constructs of how the world should work, and his moral teachings weren't necessarily very dissimilar from the status quo being promoted by Pharisee Jews living in Judea around the time that he would have lived. He was promoting the same sort of status quo, and therefore wasn't necessarily revolutionary.
Yeah, so it says on the wiki page, it states that the criterion states that if a saying is attributed to Jesus, if it's dissimilar to the Jewish traditions of his time and also from the early church that followed him, it is likely to be authentic. So what they're saying is that, and this is, as I understand how it's being applied, and that article was really tough. I'm gonna have to read it again, but it was tough to follow.
It's also really long.
But
TLDR.
But what does TLDR mean?
Too long, didn't read.
Oh. That's funny. So what it's saying is like if somebody comes along that has a revolutionary idea, it's probably going to be very different from the status quo, right? But in 1,000 years, if people are saying like, oh yeah, Jason Bayless said that, you know, to go with Bitcoin and you know, just the things you're saying, like you're a reflection of your time, and I understand that you know, people will say things in context, but I think Price is using that to support the myth idea, in that nobody needed to say those things. It was what people were saying all the time anyway, and so you didn't need this radical person to come in and change things. We just invented him and then put those words in his mouth because it was being said anyway.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And the guy in the Patheos article, he criticizes him for misusing the criterion of dissimilarity, but it doesn't say the criterion of dissimilarity is a bad criteria. He just says that Price misuses it, which I don't know about that.
Yeah, I haven't read that piece by Price, but my experience with Price is that he's a capable scholar.
Well, I'm sure he knows what he's talking about.
He probably absolutely knows what he's talking about.
Although you know what I've never. It was another article I read. I've been listening to a lot of Price and reading him as much as I can, and I have yet to hear him deal with the problem of difficulty, and that is an argument for an authentic Jesus, or at least an authentic Jesus birth narrative, in that why do you have to introduce this element to the story that wasn't even true to get Mary and Joseph to Bethlehem? Why don't you just start the story with them in Bethlehem? And that's actually an argument for an authentic Jesus.
Because you got to build the characters. You have to build the bonding. That's a road trip.
The argument for it is that there was no birth narrative originally, and these things were arguably the whole Bethlehem story started when Jews started to adopt the sort of Jesus cult. They wanted him to be the Messiah, but they also needed him to be born in a certain place.
Right. So, so the problem of difficulty says, why don't you just start the story with him being born in that place? Why do you have to have these circuitous events to get him there? Because maybe that seems like it fulfills prophecy more. I don't know.
Well, Matthew's all about fulfilling prophecy. But when you look at Mark, which is the first written down surviving as a gospel, the first narrative of Jesus' life, the first Greco-Roman biography of Jesus, is not a very Jewish text. They didn't, arguably, you're talking about Mark, you're talking about a Gentile text that didn't need to be written to fulfill any sort of Jewish prophecies, because frankly, it wasn't a Jewish text. They didn't care about Jewish prophecies. Very likely the first versions of Mark were Marcionite texts, very similarly.
Yeah, I don't know, it's interesting to think about. So now I've got two new thoughts rattling around in my head: the criterion of dissimilarity and the problem of difficulty.
Yeah.
And with that, we should do homework.
And then what's the one that Bart Ehrman uses a lot? Is it the? It's not the problem. He calls it the.
I don't remember.
Oh, it's when you're doing textual criticism and you have two different readings of the text, and so then you choose the worst one.
Oh.
Is that the problem of difficulty too?
No. That is. Oh God. Oh shit. I know the Latin term of this. No, what you're talking about is in textual criticism, the more difficult passage to understand is probably the original.
Yeah. And like working backwards.
Yeah, because scribes had an incentive to make things, simpler and more streamlined. They certainly didn't want to convolute theologies. At least not to try and purposely contradict things that they shouldn't or wouldn't need to.
Well, I don't pretend to understand perfectly all of these concepts, but I'm trying.
But with that, we should probably end the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, real quick, let me make before you wrap it up. Since my graphics card has died and I'm running off a CPU instead of the GPU, this is going to be our last live broadcast until I get a new graphics card because we're not getting good quality broadcast.
And if it's not top quality, it's not worth doing.
I mean, we'll do the show. We just won't broadcast live until I get a replacement card.
That's cool.
So, take us out, Ken.
Okay, so if you've enjoyed the show and you think we should continue to do it live, we're now accepting Bitcoins.
That's right.
If you have some lying around.
Not hungry, just broke.
Not hungry, just broke. Exactly. We do this show for fun, obviously. But if you want to help us out with a Bitcoin, that'd be
this
great.
is fun? Son of a bitch.
It's fun for me.
And look, this is what, 6 weeks in a row now?
Yeah. Show 74, right?
74, show 74.
Sweet.
And it's now officially been over 2 years since we started the show.
Holy shit.
Wow.
I know. But if you want to leave us feedback and comments and concerns, you think we should cover a topic, shoot us an email, nonreligious@zombie-popcorn.com. Like us on Facebook. You can find us on Google+. Listen to us on Stitcher Radio. You can listen to us on iTunes. Check out the website. You can even call if for some reason you have a phone that you can't surf the internet on or shoot an email from. 757-337-2195.
Call us.
What's that?
Call
us. Oh, I thought you were saying I got the phone number wrong because I was not looking at anything.
No, you got it.
Good. So yeah, let us know what you think. We always love comments, even if they're saying that we're wrong.
You're wrong.
It's great, and it gives us something to talk about next week's show.
Yeah. Oh, there was a guy. Oh shit! I should have mentioned it too before we run out of time. But there was a guy that left a comment on one of the YouTube things, and I forget his name, but his comment was basically, we were talking. It was that show. They said what? Like we were like, what? I can't believe the shit that comes out of these guys' mouths. And his comment was basically, it was very well spoken, where he was just like, let them keep talking. they're actually on our side.
Yeah, no, certainly, definitely. But with that, we will see you all next week.
Next week.
Have a good night.
Good night. Did you do the outro? Is my mic still on?
Your mic is still
Am
on.
I still broadcasting?
You're still broadcasting.
Can you hear me? What is going